Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. And of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still waiting on quarterback Aaron Rodgers to decide whether he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, whether he wants to wait for another team later on down the road, or whether he wants to quit football entirely and retire. All right, so on today's show, we're going to be going over the best options that the Pittsburgh Steelers have at their disposal at the quarterback position if they strike out on Aaron Rodgers. Last year, of course, Omar Khan and the Steelers struck out on Brandon Ayuk after waiting for him for weeks. And if the same thing happens this year, once again, the Steelers are going to be in trouble. So before we get into today's content, when Rodgers makes his decision, whenever it comes, whether it's retirement, whether it's the Steelers, whether it's a different football team, not named the Steelers, we're going to be going live for that. All right? I still think he's going to choose the Pittsburgh Steelers. At least I hope he does. But if it ends up not being the case here, let's talk about some of the possibilities here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the scary reality of this situation, in my opinion, is that if Pittsburgh misses out on Rodgers, the chances of competing at a high level and winning a playoff game and giving yourself a chance to win a 7th Lombardi trophy go down by a significant margin, all right? And, does Aaron Rodgers make the Steelers Super Bowl favorites over the Chiefs and Eagles and Bills and Ravens and all the other elite teams in the league? No. But there's at least a fighting chance with Aaron Rodgers coming in. We've seen there's historical precedents for older quarterbacks coming to new teams and turning them into Super Bowl contenders. Brett Favre did it with the Vikings in his age 40 season. Tom Brady did it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his age 43 season. Rodgers is going to be going into his year 41, 42 season here with the Pittsburgh Steelers if he signs on. So, if you don't get him, there's no other options. Russell Wilson is gone. All right, Sam Darnold is gone. Justin Fields is gone. All right, all the starting quarterback options are pretty much gone other than Aaron Rodgers. So once again, Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers are putting all of their eggs into one player's basket. It didn't work out with Brandon Ayuk last year. Hopefully it does work out this year with Aaron Rodgers. And then another reality facing the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers, is that I think the chances of Pittsburgh taking a quarterback in round one or at least in the early rounds of the NFL draft go up pretty significantly. And we actually did a video on this, guys, talking about guys like Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, and more. It's up on the channel right now. I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show if you guys want to see the top draft options for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers. But I really do doubt that Pittsburgh embraces a full tank season. I see some people on Steelers Twitter suggesting, let's just go with Mason Rudolph and let's be mediocre again and let's not even try to win a Super Bowl. And I disagree with that thinking. I think Mike Tomlin, the head coach here in Pittsburgh, that's just not the way he thinks. He's a competitor. He's just not somebody that's going to embrace a tank season in order to get a quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft. He's going to try to win as many games as humanly possible with this football team, especially because of the really short timeline that Cam Hayward has at this point in his career. He's got 2 years before he's going to retire. So the question becomes, who gives the Pittsburgh Steelers the best chance to win if Aaron Rodgers is no longer an option? And by the way, guys, this is how dire the situation is. The answer to that question may very well be Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph, compared to some of the other options that we're going to talk about on today's show, you can make an argument is a better option for the Pittsburgh Steelers than some of the other veteran quarterback options we're going to talk about on today's show. And, personally, I could roll with a quarterback room that consists of Mason Rudolph as the bridge quarterback, and then if you take a rookie in round one or early on in the NFL draft this year, whether that's Shedeur Sanders, whether that's Jackson Dart, whether that's Jalen Milroe, whether that's Tyler Shuck, if you can go into the season with that quarterback room, you're definitely not winning a Super Bowl, but at least you might have a chance to have your long-term answer at quarterback in that rookie quarterback in the room with Mason Rudolph if you can't get a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But what are some of the other vet options? All right, so we'll talk about, outside of Mason Rudolph, who are some of the other veteran quarterbacks that the Pittsburgh Steelers could target if Aaron Rodgers decides not to come to Pittsburgh. I'll answer that question here in just 1 second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone. It's 100% free to download right now. You guys can join over 10 million members and sign up today. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Of course, today, the day that I'm filming this, guys, it's actually opening day in Major League Baseball. So if you guys want to get going right now on baseball projections here, you guys can absolutely do that. Every time Skeens takes the mound, you can take the more on his strikeouts, all that great stuff. So if you want to get in on the action right now, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So unfortunately here, guys, Kirk Cousins would be a possibility for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they end up not getting Aaron Rodgers, because Mike Tomlin's mentality is going to be, what veteran quarterback is going to have the best chance to come in here and win? And Kirk Cousins has won a lot of football games as a starting quarterback in the National Football League, and he has a ton of experience, especially in offenses similar to offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. So you take a look at his profile here, guys. 36 years old, so he's the same age as Russell Wilson. He brings good size to the table. He has a ton of experience as a franchise quarterback with the Washington Commanders and Minnesota Vikings franchises. He spent one season there in Atlanta. And he's technically a scheme fit for Arthur Smith. He's proficient at throwing the ball over the middle of the field. He's a experienced play action type of quarterback. Tons of experience under center as well. So he'd be comfortable in this scheme here in Pittsburgh. But you take a look at some of the advanced stats from Cousins last year, and some of them are very ugly. Some of them are okay. His yards per attempt just outside the top 10. That's not terrible. And then his time to throw, he actually got the ball out relatively quickly last season. He had a lower sack percentage than Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers last year, even though it just barely cracked the top 20. So all that is certainly there, but something that really scares you guys is that turnover-worthy play percentage, which ranked 38th in the league at 4.6% of his plays being turnover-worthy, according to Pro Football Focus. And you guys can take a look at the significant drop-off after Kirk Cousins' first 9 games with the Atlanta Falcons, where he actually played pretty decent football those first 9 weeks. He didn't play very well against the Steelers in week 1, but after that, he actually played pretty well. His completion percentage was hovering around 70%. His yards per game was sitting over 250 yards per game. He had a decent touchdown to interception ratio, and his quarterback rating was over 100, all right? So when the weather was fine, all these different things, when his arm was still a little bit live, he was a pretty decent quarterback. His anticipation, all the things that he brings to the table, was really able to shine through. But then as the season went on, his arm strength continuously got weaker and weaker and weaker, and that led to more interceptions. His last 5 games, he threw 9 interceptions and just 1 touchdown. His quarterback rating dipped almost 40 points in those last 5 games, culminating in him being benched for rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. Now, in terms of what Cousins brings to the table at this point in his NFL career, I think he's a deteriorating starting level quarterback, and at this point, I think it's debatable whether he's even a top 32 QB in all of football. Now, some of the pros he brings to the table, he's an elite mental processor. The scheme fit is certainly there with the style of offense Arthur Smith wants to run. He does attack the middle of the field, something Russell Wilson never really did. He does bring veteran leadership to the room as well. Has plenty of experience taking on that franchise quarterback role. He is pretty darn accurate. He does throw with anticipation, and he does throw with some nice touch down the field. But the cons, the arm strength is gone, which is usually the sign of a quarterback that is no longer got it. He's turnover prone because he tries to throw the ball into windows his arm can no longer fit it into. The athleticism has really never been there, but after the Achilles tear 2 years ago, it's really not there anymore. The playmaking is not there out of structure. And then he's been a terrible playoff performer throughout his career as well. And right now, Josina Anderson is saying and reporting that the asking price for Kirk Cousins right now is a 3rd-round pick from the Atlanta Falcons. So you'd have to give up your only day 2 draft pick this year, number 83 overall, to get a guy that is deteriorating and you might get 1 season out of at this point. That is not something that I am willing to do, and that's why I think Kirk Cousins, being the Steelers' starting quarterback in 2025, has disaster written all over it. All right, with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, at least those guys as older quarterbacks haven't lost their arm strength. Kirk Cousins has, and I think that especially, putting that weak arm in the AFC North where he's going to have to try and cut through AFC North winds, throw through the rain, play when there's snow on the ground. That's just not something that a weaker arm quarterback is going to be able to do at a high level. And I just worry that with Kirk Cousins, I honestly think Mason Rudolph could probably win more games than Kirk Cousins as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. There are some other veteran quarterback options out there via trade that the Steelers could consider. Andy Dalton has started quite a few games over the last several seasons. I think Carolina might be willing to take like a 6th-round pick for him. Jacoby Brissett just signed with the Arizona Cardinals, but he's actually tied with Aaron Rodgers for the lowest interception percentage in the history of the National Football League. Tyrod Taylor is another guy that has some athleticism. He can make some big-time throws down the field, and he protects the football. So if you want kind of a one-year kind of bridge quarterback, Tyrod Taylor is certainly somebody you can consider. And then Jimmy Garoppolo is somebody that's operated in an offense like Arthur Smith's for many, many seasons. He's proficient throwing the ball over the middle of the field, but kind of like Cousins, his arm strength is absolutely terrible. But another route that the Steelers could go down here is that they could trade for a developmental quarterback, somebody that's a little bit younger but has some physical traits that maybe they can grow into here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some of the options in this category are guys like Joe Milton, who showed some really promising things last year with the New England Patriots, both in the preseason, and then he played most of the season finale last year for the Pats against the Buffalo Bills backups, and he showed some really, really good things in that football game that show some growth compared to what he was showing us on tape at Tennessee. Will Levis played with probably the worst offensive line protection in the entire league last year. He still has a very quick release, very rotational throwing mechanics. He still has the physical profile of somebody with high upside. So if the Steelers want to take another dart throw, you can consider him. And then Malik Willis, he played pretty decently for the Green Bay Packers in Jordan Love's stead when he was dealing with an injury last year. Malik still has big-time arm talent. He's still a dynamic rusher of the football. So if you're looking for another dart throw on kind of a higher upside type of quarterback that you want to take trade a day 3 draft pick for, you can consider one of these 3 guys. And then we can also take a look at what's left in NFL free agency in terms of the veteran pieces that are available on the open market. Along with Aaron Rodgers, there's not a whole lot left out there, guys. You got Joe Flacco, who throws a ton of interceptions. I don't think he's a fit for what Mike Tomlin wants here in Pittsburgh. Carson Wentz, another guy that's very volatile, throws a lot of interceptions, puts the ball in harm's way a lot. Not sure he'd be a fit. And then Drew Lock, same way. Didn't do a whole lot with the New York Football Giants last year. So if I'm being honest with you guys, all the other free agency options don't really entice me all that much. But the one that does a little bit is Ryan Tannehill. All right. Now, I don't think Tannehill is the type of guy that gets you really excited. I honestly think Mason Rudolph can make a really good argument is still a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill is at this point in his career. He didn't even play at all last year. But you guys can take a look here at a report from Jordan Schultz, which shows that Ryan Tannehill is still open to being a quarterback in the National Football League. He says the Vikings have had discussions with former Titans QB Ryan Tannehill about a potential deal. So Tannehill is still kind of, sniffing around, seeing if there's opportunities. If there's a chance to compete for a starting job with Arthur Smith, his former offensive coordinator there in Tennessee, I think that's something that he would really think about if that opportunity came up. And he has said that he only wants to start. He doesn't want to be a true backup. If he's going to come back and play in the NFL, he wants to be a starter. So if the Steelers miss out on Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith is like, all right, well, what other options do we have? Oh, we have the quarterback that, I got 33 touchdowns out of and just 7 interceptions back in 2020. I think that is something the Pittsburgh Steelers, and by the way, I think Ryan Tannehill would maybe even think about this potential pairing. That is, of course, if Aaron Rodgers decides to go elsewhere. Now, it is worth mentioning in the years after Arthur Smith left Tennessee, the numbers just went down for Ryan Tannehill. All right, he had that 33 touchdown to 7 interception season in 2020. Then when Arthur Smith leaves that offseason, his numbers go down a lot. 21 touchdowns to 14 the next year, and then the last 2 seasons of his career in Tennessee, he dealt with some injuries, and he didn't play very good football. All right, so keep that in mind. Then in 2024, he's been on the couch. All right, so if he comes to Pittsburgh, I'm not even sure if he'd be able to beat out Mason Rudolph for the starting job here in Pittsburgh. But if they want another veteran option, I think that Tannehill is somebody that they may give a call to. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. What would be your QB plan if Pittsburgh strikes out again, this time on Aaron Rodgers? Personally, I think my plan would just be to stick with Mason Rudolph and then draft a quarterback early, whether it's Jackson Dart, whether it's Tyler Shuck, whether it's Shadur Sanders, whether it's Jalen Milroe. Probably not Milroe because you're probably asking that rookie to start pretty soon. But, I think Rudolph is a more than serviceable spot starter, replacement level guy. And if you draft your quarterback of the future this year, at least you have a plan for the future at the quarterback position if you can't get somebody that can help you win now. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button. You can also give me a follow at Jack_Sperry on X, and you can follow us here at Steelers Talk at SteelersCS on IG if you want more short-form content from us here at Steelers Talk.